Okay. Good morning. We will be having our journal club today. There will be two topic for presentation. The uh, the session will be moderated by Dr. Dhitiman Mitra. He is in Associate Professor of Surgery at Calcutta Medical College, and he is MCH uh, in General Surgery and Breast Surgery. He is running a very good breast unit at Medical College. So we'll have two topics for this session. The first will be by Dr. Snehashish Shah. He is at second year PGT at IPGMR District Hospital. Snehashish, please start.
Good morning, sirs. I'll be presenting. So may I start screen sharing?
Just audio. Just check your audio little louder.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good morning, sirs. Sir, may I start screen sharing?
Yes.
Yes.
Recording in progress.
Sharing.
Sir, is it visible?
Yes.
Good morning, sirs and my dear colleagues. I'm Dr. Snehashi Shah of Department of General Surgery, IPGMR, and I'll be presenting the SALSA trial or the secondary adjuvant long-term study with Arimidex, which was a prospective randomized open multicenter phase 3 study to assess the efficacy of secondary adjuvant endocrine anesthesial therapy for 2 further years versus 5 further years in patients of hormone receptor positive breast cancer after a 5-year primary adjuvant endocrine therapy. It is a recent study published in the New England Journal of Medicine in July 29, 2021. About the journal, the New England Journal of Medicine is an esteemed journal with the editor-in-chief, Dr. Eric J. Rubin, and Massachusetts Medical Society as the publisher, and it is a weekly magazine, a weekly journal. Now, breast cancer is the most common cancer among women, with the majority of cases occurring after menopause. Despite substantial improvements in the outcome resulting from the use of adjuvant endocrine therapy among women with breast cancer, the risk of disease recurrence continues indefinitely, with more than half of the recurrences diagnosed after the first 5 years. Thus, extending the duration of adjuvant endocrine therapy appears to be reasonable. In general, aromatase inhibitors are considered to be more effective than tamoxifen for the first 5 years of adjuvant therapy. However, the benefit of extending aromatase inhibitor therapy for 5 years beyond the original 5-year regimen is less well established. In addition, the most effective duration of such extension of therapy is unknown. The duration of therapy is an important variable because aromatase inhibitors have been associated with adverse side effects that often affects patients' quality of life and may even compromise the treatment adherence of the patient. The aim of the study was to investigate whether an additional 2 years or 5 years of anesthesial therapy would result in better outcomes after initial 5 years of endocrine therapy in postmenopausal women with hormone receptor positive breast cancer. The objectives of the study were as follows. The primary objective was to assess the effect in terms of disease-free survival between the 2 years of anesthesial therapy and 5 years of anesthesial therapy after initial 5 years of adjuvant endocrine therapy. And the secondary objectives were to assess the effect in terms of overall survival and to compare the fracture rates between the two treatment groups and to compare the occurrence of secondary breast cancers except contractile breast cancer and contractile breast cancer as such. The study design, it was a prospective open label multi-center randomized phase 3 trial which was conducted across 75 centers in Austria from 2003 December to 2018 December, and the sample size consisted of 3,484 randomized patients. The data and safety monitoring was performed by the Austrian Breast and Colorectal Study Cancer Study Group, or the ABCSG. Now, coming to the inclusion criteria for the study, Postmenopausal patient with histologically verified invasive or minimally invasive breast cancer that has been radically treated locally with or without previous chemotherapy or radiotherapy. Age less than 80 years was considered. No distant metastasis or recurrence at randomizations, and TNM stages of TNM classification of T1 to 3, N0 to 1, and M0 were only considered. And estrogen and or progesterone receptor positive patients and patients who had already received endocrine therapy for 5 years with a maximum deviation of plus minus 12 months. And at the time of randomization, all suitable appropriate history and clinical examination and investigations should have been present, and informed consent was to be taken. Exclusion criteria. Premenopausal patients are patients with non-determinable menopausal status, and patients with manifest secondary malignancy or post-secondary malignancy, and patients with general contraindications to anastrozole or hypersensitivity reactions, and carcinoma in situ of any size with or without Paget's disease of the nipple or T4 tumors at the time of initial diagnosis, and receptor determination unknown patients are receptor ERPR negative patients, age more than 80 years, a performance index more than 2 as per WHO, and patients who were already on regular use of hormone products and hormone replacement therapy for more than 6 months since the primary breast cancer surgery, and patients with serious concomitant disease preventing implementation of adjuvant therapy, and lack of patient cooperation, legal incapacity of the patient, and psychiatric diseases were also excluded. The patients having met the inclusion and exclusion criteria and having received 5 years of adjuvant endocrine therapy with tamoxifen, with either tamoxifen or aromatase inhibitors or both sequentially up until 12 months were randomized by adaptive randomization using the minimization method on the basis of the following stratification criteria. On the basis of pathological tumor stage, the pathological nodal stage, the primary adjuvant endocrine therapy, adjuvant chemotherapy, receptor status, and whether they had previously participated in any such trial. Such patients were divided into two therapy groups. Therapy group A consisted of patients who were given anastrozole 1 mg per day orally for 2 years, and therapy group B who had taken anastrozole 1 mg per day orally for 5 years. Before randomization, to ensure disease-free status, protocol-defined baseline investigations were performed consisting of gynecological examination, including vaginal ultrasonography, USG or CT scan of the abdomen, chest X-ray or CT scan, bilateral mammography, laboratory tests, and tumor markers such as CA and CA15-3 were also done, and measurement of bone density was also done. During follow-up after the treatment period, clinical visits were conducted and mammography was performed annually. The follow-up methods and scheduling were similar in the two groups. This is the consort diagram which shows the total patients participating. A total of 3,484 patients underwent randomization, among which 1,739 were assigned to 2-year group and 1,745 were assigned to the 5-year group. Among them, 7 in each group did not consent. This leaves us to 1,732 and 1,738 in the 2-year and 5-year groups. Among both these groups, 67 discontinued during in the 2-year group. 67 discontinued during the first 2 years, and 62 had recurrence during the first 2 years, which excludes them from our study. And in the 5-year group, 68 discontinued during the 2-year group, and 65 had disease recurrence during the first 2 years. So finally, the final analysis was done on the basis of 1,603 patients in the 2-year group and 1,605 patients in the 5-year group. Now, these are the characteristics of the patients in the primary analysis population. The mean age in the 2-year group was 64.1 years, and the mean age in the 5-year group was 63.9 years. Among the total number of patients who were studied, 1,172 patients in the 2-year group were tumor stage T1, and 1,163 patients in the 5-year group were tumor stage T1, which is the majority of the cases. And similarly, 397 were in T2 stage in the 2-year group, and 405 were in T2 stage in the 5-year group. And 29 patients were in T3 group in 2-year stage, and 29 patients were also in T3 group in the 5-year. Now coming to the nodal stage, N0 stage was 165 patients in the 2-year group and 181 patients in the 5-year group. N1 patients were 504 in the 2-year group and 484 in the 5-year group. N2 patients were 27 in the 2-year group and 33 in the 5-year group, and N3 were 5 and 7 in the 2 groups. On the basis of this, we can see that there was no bias on the basis of selection of the patients on the basis of tumor and nodal stage. On the hormone receptor status, estrogen receptor positive, progesterone receptor positive patients were 1262 in the 2-year group and 1230 in the 2-year group. And either estrogen receptor or progesterone receptor negative were 341 and 370 in the 2-year group and 5-year group respectively. Total of 1271 patients underwent breast conservation surgery in the 2-year group and 1306 underwent BCS in the 5-year group. 328 patients underwent mastectomy in the 2-year group and 290 patients underwent mastectomy in the 5-year group. Among the 2-year group, 117 had taken only aromatase inhibitor for the primary 5 years of adjuvant therapy, and 118 had taken aromatase inhibitor for the in the 5-year group for the initial 5 years of endocrine therapy. And tamoxifen was taken by 816 in the 2-year group and 819 in the 5-year group. And sequential tamoxifen and aromatase was taken by 670 and 668 patients respectively. And a total of 230 patients had taken chemotherapy containing anthracycline in the 2-year group and 218 in the 5-year group. 84 patients had taken taxane containing chemotherapy in the 2-year group and 87 in the 5-year group. These data were statistically analyzed and Kaplan-Meier analysis and log rank tests were performed, and Cox proportional hazards regression was used to estimate the hazard ratios and 95% confidence intervals. An additional post-hoc analysis was also done to calculate the absolute risk reduction in the time until clinical bone fracture, along with the number of patients who would need to be treated for benefit or harm with respect to this secondary endpoint. All statistical analyses were performed with the use of SIS statistical software. The results for the study were, among the 2-year group, 335 patients had a local or distant recurrence, contralateral breast cancer, secondary primary cancer, or death without recurrence, and 335 had such events in the 5-year group. Among them, 48 had local recurrence in the 2-year group and 39 in the 5-year group. 82 had distant recurrence in the 2-year group and 78 had distant recurrence in the 5-year group. 35 patients had contralateral breast cancer in the 2-year group and 33 patients had contralateral breast cancer in the 5-year group. A second primary cancer occurred in 100 patients in the 2-year group and 108 patients in the 5-year group. Death without recurrence occurred in 70 patients in the 2-year group and 81 patients in the 5-year group. On analyzing the disease-free survival between the two groups, we noticed that starting 2 years after randomization, the results at 8 years after the end of treatment in the 2-year group, that is actually 10 years after randomization, the disease-free survival was similar in the two treatment groups, which was 73.6% in the 2-year group and 73.9% in the 5-year group, with a hazard ratio of disease recurrence or death at 0.99. With confidence interval of 0.85 to 1.15 and p-value of 0.9, signifying that the disease-free survival between the two groups was almost similar with no significant differences. Overall survival. No between group difference was noted for overall survival also at 8 years. Overall survival was 87.5% in the 2-year group and 87.3% in the 5-year group, with a hazard ratio for death from any cause of 1.02. The hazard ratio for contralateral breast cancer was 1.15, and the hazard ratio for a second breast cancer, for a second primary cancer, was 1.06, which also indicates that the overall survival between the two groups was similar with no considerable differences. On considering the risk of bone fracture, we notice that the risk of clinical bone fracture at 5 years after randomization after 5 years of randomization was lower in the 2-year group than in the 5-year group. In the 2-year group, the risk of the risk of bone fracture was only 4.7%, whereas in the 5-year group, the risk of bone fracture was 6.3% with a hazard ratio of 1.35%. And also from 3 to 5 years, the increase in the risk of bone fracture can be seen in this diagram by negative values of absolute bone reduction. Hence, we can conclude that in the 5-year group, there is more risk of bone fracture. Adverse effects of anastrozole. The side effects of anastrozole overall were in line with the known toxicity profile of the drug. At least one serious adverse effect occurred in 452 patients of the 1705 patients in the 2-year group and 687 of 710 patients in the 5-year group. That is 26.5% and 40% patients respectively. Serious adverse effects that were deemed by the investigator to be related to anastrozole occurred in 40 patients, that is 2.3% in the 2-year group and 69 patients in the 5-year group respectively. Osteoarthritis was the most frequently reported adverse effect. Adverse documented in 29 patients and 74 patients respectively in the 2-year and 5-year group. Hence, we can see that side effect profile was that the side effects of anastrozole were also more common in the 5-year group than in the 2-year group. Coming to the discussion, at 8 years, the disease-free survival was the same, or that is almost 74% in the 2 treatment groups. And the hazard ratio for contralateral breast cancer was 1.15, and the hazard ratio for second primary cancer was 1.06. The incidence of clinical bone fracture was 4.7% in the 2-year group and 6.3% in the 5-year group. And serious adverse events occurred in 26.5% and 40.2% respectively. In conclusion, we can conclude that postmenopausal women with hormone receptor positive breast cancer at average risk do not benefit from extending adjuvant aromatase inhibitor therapy beyond a total of 7 years. That is 5 years of initial endocrine therapy followed by 2 years of an extended therapy. And prolongation of extended aromatase inhibitor treatment beyond 7 years resulted in potential harm for patients in the form of increased risk of clinical bone fracture and increased side effects for anastrozole without providing any outcome benefits. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Snehashish. It was a very good presentation. One thing you should have been careful about is like the content, amount of content in each of the slides. Please don't stop sharing your slide. Go back to the first slide and we'll start discussing from there. But before we start, I mean, one of your earlier slides where you have been describing the introduction and the background of this study, you have said that there was no consensus about the duration of aromatase, duration of hormone therapy and something like that. So you tell me about the background of other trials which led to the build-up of this trial. Some landmark trials which led to the establishment of hormone therapy as an adjuvant in breast cancer, in hormone-positive breast cancer, followed by other trials, other landmark trials which were done to decide how long it should be given.
Okay, sir. So there was a trial, the ATAC trial, which ATTAC trial, which established that aromatase inhibitors are more effective than tamoxifen for adjuvant endocrine therapy.
ATTAC trial was aromatase inhibitors, tamoxifen, alone or in combination.
Alone or in combination.
Yes, that in combination, they are not. There's no extra benefit.
Yes, sir.
And in fact, in combination and the results with using them in combination and using tamoxifen alone were almost same. However, there was a marginal benefit of using aromatase inhibitors over combination or tamoxifen in the postmenopausal group, not in the premenopausal group, mind you. However, that came much later. Actually, it started with the NSCBP P1 and P2 trials, which were prevention trials, along with the IBIS trials, which established that tamoxifen use in high-risk groups of ladies who have a high GALE risk or a high risk of family history of cancer and all. In such ladies above 35, if you use tamoxifen, you can reduce the cancer incidence. That was with NSCBP P1. NSCBP P2 or STAR trial compared tamoxifen with raloxifene and found that the safety profile of raloxifene is marginally better than tamoxifen. Now, after that, NSCBP 13 and 14 trials, they established the use of tamoxifen or aromatase inhibitors, whichever, in or endocrine therapy in adjuvant setting. Now, once it
Okay,
was
sir.
established they're beneficial in the adjuvant setting, we needed to know the duration, how long we will give. So there were
Yes, sir.
these two very landmark trials, Atlas trial and the Atom trial, which both looked at the duration of use. And both of them came out with comparable results that, a 10-year endocrine therapy is better to control recurrences, because it was being seen that, when you stop hormone therapy at 5 years, you are getting recurrences at 7th year, 9th year, 10th year.
Yes, sir.
So they said that we will continue up to 10th year, and if we can use up to 10th year, we can stop recurrences in 15 years. So, the benefit of using it for those extra 5 years actually came much, the effect could be visible when you followed up the patient over 15 years. You stop
Okay,
drug
sir.
at 5 years and follow up the patient at 10th year, and you used for 10 years and follow up at 10th year, the results will be comparable. But when you follow the same patients up at 15th year, you will see those who received 10 years were at an advantage. So that
Okay,
got
sir.
established. Then followed by that, there were other agents that came up like exemestane and all. And there was this idea, okay, some ladies will be premenopausal when we start the therapy. And
Yes, sir.
so we will start them on tamoxifen, but while we are treating them, they might turn into true postmenopausal women. Sometimes due to
Okay, sir.
chemotherapy, patients will become chemotherapy-induced postmenopausal, but that you have to ascertain whether it is true menopause or drug-induced. True menopause and drug-induced menopause can be differentiated by FSH, LH, estrogen, and inhibin estimation. Inhibin is the surrogate for progesterone. So by
Okay,
these,
sir.
you first would have to establish that the patient has attained true menopause or not, and then you could change over to aromatase inhibitors. Why this change is required? Because to curb the side effects that arise out of tamoxifen use. So this was seen. And later they saw that even if a lady was premenopausal from the beginning, they tried to see through several other trials whether using aromatase inhibitors for 2 years followed by 3 years of tamoxifen, or 5 years of aromatase inhibitors followed by some 5 years of tamoxifen. All kinds of combinations were tested. There was this Canadian trial, and NSABP 33 was started to see the benefit of a mixed trial, mixed treatment with exemestane followed by aromatase inhibitors, and it
Okay,
was
sir.
stopped in the middle because it produced almost comparable results with the Canadian trial. And finally,
Okay,
it was
sir.
decided this kind of switchover is also helpful. Now came this modern era of these trials when we almost knew that 10 years is beneficial, but there was a subgroup analysis which showed only for the high risk groups, like who had lymph node positive cancer or high grade cancer with LVI.
Yes, sir.
In those, 10-year hormone therapy is beneficial over 5 years. This was seen. Now, when we were almost comfortable using 10 years of endocrine therapy, the problems of side effects started to bother us. And then these kind of studies started to examine whether 2 years of extra therapy beyond the initial 5 years versus 5 years of extra therapy, is there any benefit between the two
Okay, sir.
as far as recurrences is concerned? And if recurrences are same in both the arms, then why use it for 5 years, increasing the risk profile? So they tried to compare the risk
Yes, sir.
profile as well as the benefit. And finally, they came out with these studies. So the introduction
Okay,
that
sir.
they have given is a bit of a misstatement. Okay. Now you
Okay, sir.
tell me, you have studied this trial, whether it was a superiority hypothesis trial or a non-inferiority trial, because randomized control trials are categorized as superiority trials and non-inferiority trials.
Sir, it
This
was
is a
a
superiority
hello.
trial or a non? Because you haven't mentioned that.
Yes, sir. Sir, it was a non-inferiority trial.
Yes, because when there's a gold standard, like 10 years is the gold standard from the previous trials. So
Yes,
the
sir.
initial trial that will start changing the practice or changing the available knowledge has to be a non-inferiority trial.
Non-inferiority trial.
You have to first show that this is non-inferior to this already established form of treatment, and then you have to go
Okay, sir.
for superiority hypothesis trials. So how was the sample size calculated? You haven't mentioned that also.
So sample size was calculated on the basis of the available data regarding the prevalence and the population under study. Hello. So
On
the
the
sample,
what?
so the sample size was calculated on the basis of the
Ashish?
available. Sir, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
So the sample size was calculated on the basis of the available data on the prevalence of the breast cancer and the entire study population
Yes.
which was under study.
So, I mean, how do you calculate that for a non-inferiority trial?
Um,
You have to define
sir, I'm
the
unable.
confidence intervals. Yes, you are audible. You have to
Okay, sir.
define the confidence limits, confidence intervals of your study. You have to
Okay, sir.
you have to fix the desired power of statistical power of the study that you want to achieve. And along, I mean,
Yes.
when you feed these data along with the prevalence data, or the expected results, expected proportions in your results,
Yes, sir.
when you feed that into a software saying that I want to perform a non-inferiority trial, suppose you have to fix your hypothesis. Say
Yes, sir.
2 years, I will consider 2 years use as non-inferior to 5 years extra use if the difference of percentage of recurrence in between the two groups is less than 5%. You have to
Okay,
fix
sir.
this when you
Okay, sir.
start a non-inferiority trial, because in both arms the recurrences won't be exact. And
Yes, sir.
if you do not have a preset range, you wouldn't know when to call it non-inferior and when to call it that it is not non-inferior and hence it is inferior. So
Okay,
you
sir.
have to decide that difference of proportion which will be acceptable to you to call the study, to call the one of the arms non-inferior to the other. So
Okay,
that
sir.
has to be mentioned. You have said that they have done an adaptive randomization. What do you mean by
Yes, sir.
adaptive randomization or Zellen's technique of randomization?
Sir, adaptive randomization means that on the basis of the stratification criteria which they have given, they have individually selected each case to put in the two arms so that there is no difference on the basis of any of the stratification criteria.
See, I mean, when we do a standard randomization, what we do, we first explain to the patient that she is being included in a trial,
Yes, sir.
and there are these two arms of the trial, and the patient is told these are the side effects of this, these are the side effects of the other, these are the advantages of this, these are the advantages of the other, and with all this information, the patient may get confused. So there is
Yes,
this
sir.
technique called Zellen's technique of randomization, in
Okay,
which
sir.
you first tell her that she is a part of the trial and all. Then you randomize her. You get to know which arm she has been allotted, and
Yes, sir.
you explain her the pros and cons of that arm only.
Okay,
And
sir.
if she is agreeing to get herself, accrued for the trial, then it's fine. If she doesn't give consent, then you leave her. One more thing,
Okay.
while discussing the results, you haven't mentioned whether it was an intention to treat analysis or it was a actual treatment received analysis. From your consort diagram, go to the consort diagram. Here you have said that 1603 were included in the primary analysis and 1605 were included in the primary analysis in the other arm. But
Yes, sir.
actually you see how many patients were randomized.
Yes, sir.
Irrespective of whatever treatment they have received or whether they have dropped out, if you are doing an intention to treat analysis, you have to do analysis using the initial number as your denominator. So when there is a significant number of patients who have discontinued or withdrawn consent, then you have to do both a treatment received analysis and an intention to treat analysis. And you have to
Okay,
show
sir.
that both the arms are actually showing similar results. If the
Okay, sir.
treatment received results are different from intention to treat analysis, you have to repeat the study. You will have to know that
Okay,
this
sir.
randomization wasn't perfect. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Another thing, as far as the side effect profile of this aromatase inhibitors is concerned, apart from bone mineral density, what other problems do you face with prolonged use?
So
According
patient may have hot flushes, and occasionally patients also report cognitive and mental impairment.
these,
And
yes, these are there, but these are not very common. Of the other common side effect is dyslipidemia. Dyslipidemia is a very common
Okay,
side effect. NCCN guidelines say that when you are putting the patient on aromatase inhibitor, two things have to be monitored. One is bone mineral density by a DEXA scan, especially
Okay,
at
sir.
the femoral neck, vertebra, and occasionally the wrist. Wrist bone density wouldn't be that much affected due to aromatase therapy, and the lipid profile of the patient. But this
Okay,
study has not concentrated on the lipid profile aspect. Have they
yes, sir.
mentioned the lipid profile aspect, or you
No,
have?
no, sir. No, sir. So they have not
They
mentioned
haven't.
anything.
So that has to be kept in mind. Like, see, why do we do a journal club presentation, especially in a trial which has been done, in the last, this paper has been published probably in the last month.
Yes, sir.
NEJM allows the readers to go through a journal article and to revert back to them within 1 month by a criticism or appraisal of that article. This is called a lead article.
Okay, sir.
So if you are reading this article and you find that there are certain loopholes in this article, you can write out a lead article and send it back to NEJM. They accept it within 1 month of publication
sir.
of the primary trial. And that is considered as a very, if they select your criticism or appraisal for publication, then it is considered as very prestigious. So,
Okay, sir.
our journal club exercises should not be limited to this presentation only. If any loophole comes out, you can write back to NEJM. But I think 1 month is over for this article now. When we had selected it, it was within 1 month. So
Yes.
that is also another added advantage of presenting journal clubs using recent articles. Okay. So
Okay,
that's
sir.
why I'm asking you about all these loopholes, because this has been done by them. You have no role in their, all the defects that is there in this paper, but still you have to focus on those, because you can always write a lead article which will be, good for your career. Now,
sir.
so lipid profile should have been mentioned, which they have.
Yes, sir.
So, what are the problems of using tamoxifen for a long period? Suppose a patient develops bone mineral problems with her bone mineral density. Can you switch
Yes,
over
sir.
to tamoxifen? Yes, you
Sir,
can. Yes, you
okay,
can.
sir.
Tamoxifen
Okay,
can be used both in premenopausal and postmenopausal groups. Few
Okay, sir.
trials like the Big 98 and all, they had proved that aromatase inhibitors are a tad better than tamoxifen in the postmenopausal group. But if somebody is having side effects, you can change. How have you treated the side effects like fractures and bone mineral density abnormality?
Sir, can you please repeat, sir?
In this trial,
Yes, sir.
how have they addressed a lady with osteoporosis or fracture while she was on aromatase inhibitor therapy?
Sir, with the use of bisphosphonates, sir.
Bisphosphonates. Bisphosphonates to prevent fractures in ladies who have already developed osteoporosis. Is there any other use of bisphosphonate in breast cancer? In
Sir,
metastatic disease with bone metastasis, you may use. And there
Okay,
was
sir.
another study in which they tried to use bisphosphonates in the adjuvant setting without,
sir.
in ladies without metastasis in the NSABP 34 trial. But they saw that there is no benefit of using bisphosphonates in the adjuvant setting in breast cancer in ladies who do not have bone metastasis. So I think we will, sir.
Vidiman, this is a well-matched population study, and the current recommendation was to use for 10 years. So do you consider this as a practice-changing publication? That we switch on to
some other trials are also there apart from the Atlas and Atom trial, which were interim between this trial and those trials, which had recommended that we can cut down from 10 years to 7 years if the lady is developing side effects like osteoporosis, osteopenia. So in a lot of patients already it has been cut down to 7 years from 10 years, and this data is actually adding to the data we have and is strengthening the concept of reducing from 10 years to 7 years.
Okay. Thank you, Snehashish.
Thank you,
Very
sir.
good presentation. Thank you. Next presentation is by Dr. Mitesh Pradhan from MR Bangladesh.
Sir, may I stop screen sharing?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Good morning, respected teachers. My name is Dr. Nitesh Pradhan, first year DNB PGT, Department of General Surgery from MR Bangalore. My topic for general club is evidence-based management of nostalgia, a meta-analysis of randomized trial. Primary author is A. Srivastava, and the study was an analysis was conducted at University Department of Surgery, Cardiff University, UK, and the clinical epidemiological unit at AIMS and Department of Surgery, AIMS. The article was published as Elsevier Journal. I'll start with introduction. Nostalgia of the breast pain is very common symptom among the patient attending the breast clinic. Approximately 60 to 70% of the women experience some degree of breast pain at some stage of their life, and in 10 to 20% of cases it is severe. Most benign conditions of breast are due to the aberration of development and involution, ANDI. The most common manifestation of ANDI is nostalgia, which may or may not be associated with nodulated. A large number of agents have been tried in the treatment of cyclical or non-cyclical breast pain. This include hormonal manipulation, Bidinazole, bromocriptine, tamoxifen, LHRH analog, goserelin. Non-hormonal agent used in nostalgia are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory gels, iodide, plant derivative like evening primrose oil, and Vitis agnus castus. There is considerable debate about the choice of the best agent for initial management of nostalgia. The aim of the analysis is to generate level 1 evidence regarding the effectiveness of bromocriptine, Tenazole, evening primrose oil, tamoxifen in the therapy of nostalgia. Now, the search study and inclusion criteria. Now, the data were searched from Medline, Google, Embase, and the textbook of breast benign diseases and surgery. The search was confined to the article published in the English language, and the data extracted from the study is restricted to randomized clinical trials. Now, inclusion exclusion criteria. Eligible studies are those with randomized clinical trials where an active drug was compared with placebo and another drug along with the placebo. This meta-analysis conducted on 4 agents which are commonly used in the therapy of breast pain: bromocriptine, Tenazole, EPO, and tamoxifen. Excluded.
আমি শুনেছি আপনার কথা, মানে আমি এখানে ইয়ে জানি আপনি পাবেন কিভাবে সেল ব্যাচ আমি 75% 81%. Okay, thank you.
Sorry for the interruption. Excluded criteria. Excluded studies are trial without randomization or without a placebo arm were excluded. Trial on the agent other than above 4 agents were excluded. Method of quality assessment. The criteria are method of randomization, concealment in randomization, blinding and assessment of response, reporting of dropout or loss of follow-up. Now, each study coded as excellent, good, and poor. No studies were excluded because of poor quality. Now, data were extracted from the important characteristics like patient population, dose of drug duration, response measure at 3 months, and the side effect of drug. Now, data were extracted from the studies by a method called masking, where the data on the baseline characteristics from the photocopied portion of the paper where the results section was masked. Similarly, the data on the results were extracted from the photocopy where the baseline features were masked. Statistical analysis. Now, mean pain score is the outcome of interest among between the active drug and with the placebo. Also, the trials where mean pain score was not given, are calculated with the relative risk from the studies, reporting as the dichotomous stat. The point estimate and the 95% confidence limit have been computed for fixed or random effect model as appropriate. Those studies with significant heterogeneity are plotted with random effect model, and those with no significant heterogeneity are plotted with fixed effect model. Now, meta-analysis has performed in Bregman meta-analysis statistical package version 4.2.8. The publication bias was not evaluated as funnel plot not drawn. Result: start with bromocriptine versus placebo. In the trials of bromocriptine, 7 trials were analyzed. Out of first 6 trials recorded as a mean pain score, where the last trial reported outcome on only as a dichotomous data, where the relative risks were calculated. Now, the quality of trials in which the 2 are excellent, 3 are good, and 2 are poor. Now, in this table, which summarizes the trial on the bromocriptine versus placebo, where various trials are mentioned, and the method intervention, and the outcome between bromocriptine and placebo, where you can see the mean pain score at 3 months of visual linear scale of 0 to 100. There's a 50% reduction in 50% reduction after the treatment, after the intervention. Like in Nasli et al., pre intervention is 86.2, the post is 37. Now, in table 2, the meta-analysis, meta-analysis of trial of bromocriptine versus placebo outcome, proportion of the response, where 3 trials were provided with the dichotomous data, where the relative risks were calculated, and the overall relative risk is 5.29 with confidence interval of 95%, that is 2.56 to 10.89, and the p-value of less than 0.0001, which find to be significant. And the below table shows the forest plot, where the overall weighted mean score difference of 16.31, which was significantly significant for the bromocriptine. And the forest plot in this table, the trials were found to be a heterogeneous, and as the I2 value is more than 50%, that is 99.4%. Hence, the random effect model was plotted. No, second, with danazol versus placebo, 5 trials were analyzed. First 4 trials recorded outcome as a mean pain score. Contest Collis et al. Reported binary outcome of responders and failures without any pain score. Quality of trial: 1 trial is excellent, 2 good, and 2 poor. Similarly, like bromocriptine, some summary on danazol versus placebo, where mean pain score is given. Now, in this forest plot, the overall weighted mean score difference of 20.23 was statistically significant, with p-value of less than 0.001, demonstrating the effectiveness of danazol for the treatment of the breast pain. And this study found to be heterogeneity, as I2 value is 41.3%, which is less than 50%. EPO versus placebo, 4 trials were analyzed. Quality of trials: excellent in 1, good in 1, and poor in 2 trials. The table summarizes EPO versus placebo, where the mean score shows not significant difference among the after intervention. In this forest plot, the the diamond which signifies the confidence interval of the overall studies touching the line of null value, hence considered insignificant, and indicating the ineffectiveness of EPO compared to placebo. And the I2 value of 80.1 shows the study is significant. Among the study, it is a significant heterogeneity. Hence, plotted the random effect model. Tamoxifen versus placebo, 3 trials with data presented as a number of patients achieving pain relief were found. Overall relief of pain achieved with tamoxifen had a relative risk of 1.92 with 95% confidence interval, 1.442 to 2.458, which is significant, and the p-value is less than 0.001. The study shows insignificant heterogeneity among the trial, hence the fixed effect model is used. In this table 6, which shows the meta-analysis on trial of tamoxifen versus placebo, and the outcome measured as a proportion, where this binary table, dichotomous table is given, where the relative risks were calculated, which is found to be 1.42 as a total of 3 studies, which is significant. Come to discussion. This paper presents the first meta-analysis on the randomized trial published on the treatment of nostalgia. RCTs have been conducted on bromocriptine, danazol, tamoxifen, and EPO have been evaluated. Limitations on meta-analysis study is poor quality of RCTs, where the sample size were small. Overall quality of trials were poor, and the process of randomization not reported. Crossover many trials are with crossover RCTs, where the interval of washout time of 1 week, and the drug like danazol, bromocriptine have a prolonged residual effect, which may alter the effect of result of, after the treatment. Reporting of outcome. The most trial mean pain score is reported without the value of standard deviation or standard error, and there is use of different scoring system in different trials, like in visual analog scale, or West Cardiff scoring system, or 0 to 4 Mastodinius score system, which makes difficult to evaluate. Conclusion: bromocriptine, danazol, and tamoxifen all offer significant relief. Tamoxifen associated with least side effects and should be drug of first choice. EPO is ineffective. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nilesh. Nice presentation. Please go back to the first slide because we'll start discussing from there. So when you are mentioning the authors, you mentioned the first author, it is fine. But you see the second name, Robert E. Mansell, is the same person who started sentinel lymph node biopsy for breast cancer and popularized it. I mean, he was not the first person, but one of the first. So he's a very famous author. So don't miss out mentioning on these names of these kind of authors. Like if Fisher is there, or Mansell is there, or if you're discussing something on sentinel lymph node biopsy and Cabana is there, you can't miss out their name, even if their name is at the end, because often the senior person's name is at the end. Now, what kind of evidence is meta-analysis? Which level of evidence is meta-analysis?
Sir, it is level one evidence.
Are all meta-analysis included in level 1? If it is a meta-analysis of, say, case series, of a few case series, no. If it is a meta-analysis of randomized trial, only then it will come as level 1. So this meta-analysis of mentioning this meta-analysis of randomized trials is important in the title also, because that will tell us which level of evidence it is. Now, before we go into the main paper, you have go to the next slide. You have said somewhere that publication bias was not assessed. What do you mean by this publication bias, and why is it unique to meta-analysis?
Sir, publication publication bias, sir, where the
See, a lot of people are doing a lot of trials. Suppose I do a trial on bromocriptine, somebody else does a trial on danazol, and then everybody tries to publish their data. So
Yes,
what kind of data is published? Generally, we will see that studies with a positive result are published, and studies which did not reach a conclusion or had a negative result, equivocal result, saying that both the arms are equal, those studies are generally not published.
yes,
They try to, whoever the editors of the journals are, generally it has been seen that they select articles in which there is a definite advantage of one arm over the other. So whatever meta-analysis is a comparison of all those studies which are already there on the net.
yes,
So net or whatever, I mean, all the Cochrane database or whatever the source of data is. So you will end up getting studies which are biased towards a positive result. That is called publication bias. And in meta-analysis, it is an important bias, because in all other statistical designs, you are analyzing your own data, own patients, and you are coming out with results. But this is an analysis of already available data. It is what is meta-analysis? Can you define meta-analysis?
sir, it is a statistical analysis where systematically combine all relevant studies to conclude the result, to conclude the single outcome.
Matlab, systematic review and meta-analysis are more or less the same thing, but meta-analysis is the quantitative part of a systematic review in which you have a research question in mind, a fixed hypothesis in mind, and you undertake a detailed search of whatever available data is there on that particular research hypothesis or question, and then you combine all the data to come to a final pooled result, which will tell you that that particular hypothesis is true or not.
Yes, sir.
So if you have a publication bias, that will affect. So one limitation of this study is that the authors did not analyze for publication bias. Now you have been talking about heterogeneity. So how is heterogeneity of a study determined?
Sir, it is
You have said,
determined. Yes, sir.
this is just for the listeners, I mean audience.
Sir,
There's something called the I2 or
I-square.
I
Sir,
square value.
I-square, if it is more than 50%, then the study is significant heterogeneity.
Heterogeneity, and in that case you can leave out that study also, or you can follow a certain model. What model is followed if there is heterogeneity?
So random effect model.
Random effect model. What is weighted analysis? See, there are 4 studies: Mansell, Richard, Nasri, and 3 studies in this. And there is no mention of weightage. Achha, in the next forest plot, you can see there's something called weight. No, on that page only.
Yes, sir.
See, the forest plot, there is something called weight. And there are 6 studies.
Yes,
and
sir.
all of them are 16.72, 16.75. So this is equal weightage.
Yes, sir.
All the studies have been given equal weightage. All their results have been given equal weightage while compiling the results and coming to a final data. Now, how to read a forest plot? This line where it is like, you can see Mansell, Durning, Hinton, like this, individual study results are given. And finally, this total is given, total.
Yes, sir.
And the plotting for that total is towards the favors treatment column. There are 2 columns, favors control, favors treatment. If the result in the total row, in the row which signifies the total result, lies on the favors control side, then you will say this is a null hypothesis because the control is being favored. Or if it is on the midline, crossing this midline, then you will say it is null. Whereas if it is decisively on the favors treatment side, you will interpret as, one arm is better than the placebo arm or the control arm. The intervention arm is better than the placebo arm. This is how you read the forest plots. Now, this regarding this bromocriptine versus placebo, it is all right. Come to the next slide. Or next slide means the next comparison. Here you can see there are 4 studies. What is the weightage? Is it equal? No. 27, 10, 8, and 52. So this study by O'Brien was considered to be superior, and it was given more weightage. Like, you know, when they select the president, I think Rajya Sabha members has a number of votes. Each member's vote is given a certain weightage. Say it is considered as 500. Whereas lower house members, their vote is considered as 200. So every component's weightage is different. Similarly, if you see that, you know, one study is very poor, one study is very good, then you can modulate the weightage that you will assign to that particular study while calculating the final result. Here also you can see that the final result is towards the favors treatment side. Come to the tamoxifen, this thing, comparison. No, tamoxifen, with tamoxifen, not bromocriptine. Here you can see that the diamond is towards the favors control side. It is not towards the favors treatment side. This was a glaring mistake in this paper. This was a glaring mistake in this paper which escaped the notice of the editors and as well as you. You didn't say that. You see, the diamond is towards
I was confused.
Actually, they had labeled it wrong.
Yes, sir.
Diagram has been labeled wrong. This favors control comes to this side and favors treatment goes to that side. This labeling was wrong in this diagram, and hence, you know, this erroneous diagrammatic interpretation without any match with whatever text was there in the article. So you should have been careful in observing this. This was a mistake on the part of the authors and the editors. I deliberately didn't tell you about this to see how attentively you read the plots. So when you're reading the plot, you should be very careful whether the diagram is matching with the text within the article. Okay.
Yes,
next, you see that a lot of centers and in different stages of our life, we have used evening primrose oil. But this trial actually completely wrote off evening primrose oil. They said that it is of no use. And this trial was not the last trial on this. They have followed it up with randomized control trials comparing centroman or ormeloxifene, which is a non-steroidal SERM, which was developed in India itself, in Lucknow, Drug Development Institute in Lucknow. So centroman or ormeloxifene is a SERM which was developed in India itself, and it has been shown to be effective in controlling mastalgia as well as reducing size of fibroadenoma. So it is very much in use. So the same authors, they have followed up their meta-analysis. They have used the knowledge they have gained from this meta-analysis to do randomized control trials comparing centroman with evening primrose oil and centroman with danazol, all of that. Now the current, I'll come to the current recommendations later. First, I want to clarify a few more things. One more thing you have said is pain score. What is this pain score? This is something new, this mastalgia scoring and all. So when you are explaining this, maybe the authors haven't explained it in detail, because this article is supposed for a target audience who already knows about the background. But if you are, you know, telling your friends the score was this, that, so they wouldn't understand. So you should explain what you mean by scoring. Do you have any idea?
Sir, there are various scoring system for mastalgia.
Commonly used one is visual analog scale. If you do not have anything, you can use the visual analog scale. Apart from that, what they used to use in Cardiff was a Cardiff breast score, which was qualitative in nature. They wouldn't assign any score to it. They would just say present or absent on each day of the month. And they will also record when the patient is having menstruation. It is like a calendar in which the pain, presence or absence of pain is recorded every day, and presence of menstruation is recorded on the particular days of the month when the patient is having menstruation. So you can see whether pain is particularly present on the days of menstruation or around the particular period of the month. or throughout the month. So you can know whether it is cyclical or non-cyclical. But since it was not quantitative, it was not possible to include it in, include the results in trials and all. So there was this modification of this Cardiff breast score into the Ames breast score, in which you assign a score of 0 to 10 to the lady. You record the left breast score separately, right breast score separately. Every day in the morning, you ask the lady to record her score. You tell her that if there is no pain at all, you write 0. If there is pain akin to childbirth, similar to childbirth, you write 10. And in between, you assess. If there is a scale which is made, again, it is a modification of the visual analog scale only, and the patient is asked to record that. And she also records her menstrual period, days of her menstrual periods, and you can see whether there is exacerbation around the menstrual period. So why this pain score is important? Now, from treatment of mastalgia, this pain score is being observed for patients, and anybody who has a score of more than 3 for more than 7 days in a month, or irrespective of the score, if the pain is such that her normal life is being disrupted, then only you will start drug therapy. Okay, so coming to the current recommendations for mastalgia treatment. When a lady comes to you for the first time, you will assess for the mastalgia. You will see whether it is cyclical or non-cyclical, whether it is true mastalgia or it is due to bone pain around, or the the certain syndromes are there where there is costochondritis, or if there is vitamin D deficiency, patients have pain in the bones, which they misinterpret as breast pain. So you rule out all those things. Vitamin D deficiency, you give multivitamins and all that. Now, once you have ascertained it to be true breast tenderness, then you give the patient a pain chart, ask her to record the score for 1 month and to come back to you after 1 month. During this 1 month, what will you tell the patient to do? You will ask her to get an imaging of the breast. If she's less than 35, you get an ultrasound. More than 35, you do a mammo plus ultrasound. Also get an ultrasound of the pelvis to rule out polycystic ovarian syndrome. Because if there is polycystic ovarian syndrome, you can't use ormeloxifene. Okay. Now you tell the patient to come with all these reports after 1 month, and during this 1 month, you tell her to wear a sports bra and apply NSAID gel on the breast thrice daily, massage with NSAID thrice daily, and you tell them to take anti-inflammatory drugs orally also if needed. Now, after 1 month, when the patient comes back, you will, hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
After 1 month, when the patient comes back, you see her score, whether it is more than 3 for more than 7 days of this entire period, or it is interfering with her lifestyle. Then, if she does not have PCOD, you start ormeloxifene, centroman, which is now considered as the first line of therapy, also available as Cevista, and which was validated by randomized trials by the same authors, which was done to follow up this meta-analysis, to apply the knowledge of this meta-analysis. What good use was this meta-analysis put to? The knowledge was used to compare, it was used to dedicate evening primrose oil to the level of placebo and comparing that placebo with other effective trials. And if the lady has PCOD, then you give tamoxifen, not 20 milligram, but 10 milligram daily, like this. And you may also use danazol and bromocriptine, but they have their share of side effects. So it varies depending on the doctor's choice, whether to use danazol or bromocriptine also. But one thing is definitely out, that is evening primrose oil. Nowadays, there are certain companies, they will come in such drug trials. Another thing that is important is conflict of interest. But they will not mention their conflict of interest. They will say, we have done this trial, that trial, and now evening primrose oil is effective and all. But properly, doctors or researchers who are not involved with production of the drug, they have done these trials and they have seen that evening primrose oil is not effective. Nowadays, they're coming out with combinations of evening primrose oil with vitamin B6, B12 and saying that this is better, but still that has not been validated by actual, non-drug developer trials. One more thing you have said regarding crossover trials. What is the problem of crossover trials?
So this the effect of the first drug can be prolonged, and that interferes with when the other drug is started or the placebo?
Therein lies the importance of having again an intention to treat analysis along with treatment received analysis. Okay, sometimes even if washout period is given, they have said that there were several studies in which less than 7 days of washout period was there. But even if a proper 3 month, 6 month washout period is given, even then you cannot rule out the effect of crossover. Suppose I treat someone with centroman for 3 months. She is cured. After 6 months, she again has mastalgia and I treat with tamoxifen. I don't know like whether the effect of that previous drug is still there, whether it is acting as an additive to the tamoxifen that is being given. So crossover trials actually have to be despised in spite of adequate washout periods also. Okay, so what is your take home message from this meta-analysis? You will not use evening primrose oil.
Yes, sir.
Even if the company people come and persuade you, you will not use. Tell them, I have read this meta-analysis, I have found this result. You give me counter literature.
Yes.
But Didhiman, should you go for drug treatment at the onset?
No, sir. At the outset, we give the pain chart to the
Reassurance.
patient,
Yeah.
reassurance, sports bra, diclofenac gel, and the pain chart. If the patient comes back with the pain chart with a pain score of more than 3 for more than 7 days in the month, or if her daily lifestyle is being interfered with because of pain, then only we consider starting.
Thank you.
Finally, when everything fails, there is another study, total estrogen blockade by using leuprolide as well as tamoxifen for several cycles. That has also been seen. That can be used only if the patient has completed her family and is agreeing to attain a chemical menopause.
Actually, in view of side effects, tamoxifen should not be considered as the first line of treatment.
No, only if there is PCOD and ormeloxifene is not being, it is not being possible to use ormeloxifene, then tamoxifen should be used. But the dosage is 10 milligram, not 20 milligram as we use in cancer. By reducing the dose to half, the side effect profile can be better.
Thank you, Didhiman. Dr. Bashak, any last minute comment? Dr. Bashak, any comment? Okay. If not, Didhiman, very good. You have
Thank you, sir.
Makhanda.
Yes. Dr. Bashak.
Bashak sir, কিছু বলছেন বোধহয়।
Makhanda.
Hello. Yes, please.
I must congratulate you and Dhitiman because you have selected a very good, bright young boy who is academically excellent and who is explaining the matter with due time, and it is a very good for the teaching of the junior staffs and for us also. Dhitiman, congratulations. Makhanda, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Shah sir, for this opportunity actually.
Thank you. Thank you,
Very
Didhiman.
good, Dhitiman. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye. Thank you. Analyze